Hello there, my name is Patrick Mushiran Joroge. At some of you call me Jirun Joroge.
My name is Dagwa Kevin Killen, Business Development Manager at Proxima AI.
Today's conversation is going to mostly deal about mental illness or mental issues, or what we're calling the mental health.
That point where you don't want to talk to people, you find that if you talk to people, you might be judged.
Yeah.
If you want to get a therapist that you're going to pay, you're going to pay from your own pocket, that becomes very expensive.
Yeah. Some people say like maybe relationships are the cause of mental illnesses, but do you think there are also multiple issues that cause, let's say, mental illness or something?
That becomes a very, very tricky question.
Stress ain't a bad thing, like maybe the people know it. Actually, we all face stress every day, every time we are facing a certain sort of stress. Like how you react to this stress, like it can be a source of motivation or something that will weigh you down. Hello there, my name is Patrick Mushiran Joroge. At some of you call me Jirun Joroge. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Killen Dagwa. I will introduce him so that you know who he is. So Killen.
Hello guys, my name is Dagwa Kevin Killen. As Patrick has mentioned, sadly he didn't mention Kevin. I am the Business Development Manager at Proxima AI, an artificial intelligence company that aims to bridge the gap in communication through businesses and their clients using artificial intelligence driven tools. And today I'm happy to be part of this conversation about mental health, and most importantly we're also going to touch on AI and how it can help mental health. So I'm quite delighted to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Patrick, for hosting me.
Yeah, as Killen has said, today's conversation is going to mostly deal about mental illness or mental issues, or what we're calling the mental health. And today we're going to really talk about this real problem, because actually it's a real problem. Like, we have not found a way which we can go to identify this problem, but it's actually a big issue, which I think some of us take it as if it's not a big issue. The society, how the society operating is like maybe talking about mental health and mental illness is kind of a weakness in some manner, because people really face this kind of problem, but they don't have a platform or a place where they can go to air themselves out or even talk about it. So Killen, do you think that the society is doing any progress in terms of maybe being able to really identify people who are facing mental illnesses, and maybe a mechanism in which you're able to assist them on?
Well, sadly, there's nothing much being done. And you mentioned in the African context, talking about mental issues is seen as a sign of weakness. But what we don't appreciate is the fact that with evolving times, our mental health issues also evolve. Remember, the problems of yesterday cannot be the problems of today. Right? So problems equally evolve. Every day new challenges keep on coming. The challenges that our grandfathers had is not the challenges that we are currently facing right now.
Yeah.
So challenges also evolve with time. And the more they evolve, the more complex they become, and the more people face stress to overcome these challenges. And that is where the issue of mental health comes in. So when it comes to whether we are doing enough to help or to at least address the mental health issue, I tend to believe there's nothing much that is being done. But I'll also be quite unfair if I don't say that there's some measures that are being taken, at least by the government, to address the mental health issue.
Okay. Based on maybe the African context and African society which we are in, like, men, we have been raised in a manner like we don't usually let me not just say the men, but maybe in the manner in which all of us are raised. Okay, we have been raised in a manner like it's not easy for someone to really talk about the real issue they are facing, like especially when it comes to personal issues and all that. People don't usually talk about, because the society perceives it as a weakness. Like, we just saw people happy, people are walking in the roads and everything seems as if it's normal, because society perceives it as that's a normal life. People don't usually the society has not built a mechanism among people can air themselves out and maybe talk about the issues they are facing and all that. But you know what has this cost? You'll find like maybe for the men now, maybe I can talk because I'm a man, and I can usually talk about maybe how men usually deal with these kind of things. You find like there's a lot of these cases where people are going out for drugs and all that, abusing the drugs and all to be able to cope up with these issues. And the real issue here is mental illness, but people will develop some kind of mechanism which they abuse drugs and all that. Maybe Kellen, do you think that's the case, that people usually go to drugs because of issues like that?
I'd want to answer your question from the top.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about people finding it hard to share issues that they're going through, but that also comes to the fact that before I tell you something, I'd want some certain level of seriousness to be taken when I'm sharing a problem. So most of the time that doesn't happen. So I'd rather sit down and let my problem sink me deep, or I find another mechanism to cope. Now that's when you mentioned substance abuse. So most people find substance abuse as an alternative to sharing their problems, right? I'd rather go sip a bottle of beer or any kind of alcohol and at least forget my problems for that night.
With some few buddies and all that.
Yes, exactly. Because you see, it comes to that point where you don't want to talk to people. You find that if you talk to people, you might be judged. It actually happens most of the times. You might want to talk to your friends, and you never know. Human beings are just human beings. We all have that weakness. Instead of us taking time and sitting down and thinking about how we're going to help the individual, you'll find someone taking that as an opportunity to using that information as gossip. So you end up finding out that
it
more than
used against
exactly more than the number of people you like, a lot of people already know about what you're going through.
It will be a cause of much more distress
exactly
than maybe finding a solution. Like, okay, like maybe the society, I think maybe the society has put it in a way like, if you are facing a certain kind of issue, you should go for consultation. You see, a normal society, that's how it runs off. Like when you're facing a problem and maybe it's something to do with your mental wellness or something, you're supposed to go see a psychiatrist or maybe go for consulting and all that. So do you think that's the way it should be, maybe? Or maybe that's just something that we usually say, but not so many people usually do that?
That is a structured way of doing things. If you have a problem, the best person to see is the therapist. Because they've been trained on how to handle different mental health problems or mental health issues. And that would be the best action to take. But sadly, it is not readily available to many people. And I'd give an example of Kenya. There's this one time I called, and it was quite interesting to know that, I don't know if many people know about this, but did you know if you call Huduma Center, you can actually speak to a therapist?
I personally didn't know about
exactly. So you see, that's information that really needs to be shared. And that is something, that's why I said I'd be unfair if I said the government isn't doing something to address mental health issues. I was quite shocked. I wasn't even going to ask about mental health issues. I was calling about a different issue. But then on once you call, then you're given an option of speaking to a therapist. So it's already readily available to you for free. But most people do not know about that.
Don't know about that.
Exactly.
The government has not maybe created awareness, so much awareness that people know, like, I can be able to speak to someone who can be able to help me
through something.
Cope up with my issues.
So most of the time when you talk about therapists, most people would think about the expense.
The money.
So exactly. And if you want to get a therapist that you're going to pay, you're going to pay from your own pocket, that becomes very expensive.
It's costly.
And it's out of reach for so many Kenyans. So that is not even an option. So as you mentioned, if that is not an option, if they can't afford to see a therapist and pay the therapist probably 4,000 a session or 3,000 a session, and I can't even afford to put food on my table at that point, I'd rather just find some cheap
way of coping.
Exactly, and just drink my life away and smoke my life away
or something.
So that I can at least cope with the problems, with the challenges that I'm facing on a day-to-day basis.
I think sadly that's maybe the real issue, because maybe that cost that is attached to maybe going for consultation and all that, for counseling and all that, I think, and the most people are facing these issues are the people who cannot be even to afford that kind of counseling and all that. But Kellen, I'm aware that you work in a software development company that deals with AI, and I know that you deal with AI that basically deals with in customer support and improving maybe experiences for customers, for various organizations and businesses. You're able to identify maybe how patterns of behavior of their customers change and maybe improve services and all that. So do you think that there are also AI that are being built for people who are facing sort of health issues, or maybe let me say like mental health issues?
Yes, there are. And I don't want to mention one, a very, very close friend of mine, based here in Kenya. I really can't, is it the AI? I can't really remember the name of the product he was building, but it's an AI assistant that helps people with mental health issues. It's like a virtual therapist, you're not speaking to a human therapist, you're speaking to a virtual therapist that is able to understand you and give you solutions or give you advice on what to do. And it's amazing that we have young people creating such things in our country. So there are that, at least that is the only one that I know of. I really haven't heard of many. So I can point that out.
Yeah, so that's a very good move in terms of technological advancement. Like we're able to maybe seek a consulting maybe from AI, because I'm well aware that maybe it's so easy for people to speak to a virtual agent from a physical agent or maybe from a human being. Do you think that's true, Killen?
Yeah, I tend to believe most people would actually want to speak to AI agents.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned, human beings are just human beings, regardless of what you've been trained for. There's that aspect of emotional, there's emotions attached to everything a human being does.
And most of it is judging.
Is judging.
Yeah.
So even if I'm speaking to a therapist, yes, this person has been trained for this.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from a point of knowing what therapists do, but it's an assumption that many people have. At the moment I share this information with this person, then he or she is going to probably judge me.
Yeah, not even from a perspective of you saying it from a perspective of being a therapist or something, from perspective of being maybe the client. There's a manner like which people feel when they talk to another human, like they won't look at me the same way after I tell them this is what I usually do.
I've given you my inner self. Something I've been hiding from people for a very long time, and now I'm exposing myself to you. And if I meet you down the road, I probably want to cross the road.
On the other side. Or maybe how will you look at me after maybe I've told you this is what I usually do?
Yes, you'll give me advice. That is what crosses many people's minds, sadly. And I remember I was once put in a room with a therapist.
Yeah.
And that was back then. And for me, that didn't really work out. Yeah. Because again, I felt like there was so much I wanted to say, but I couldn't really say. So I'm like, okay, what if I open myself up? And back then, it was actually my mom who took me to a therapist. And I was like, what if I open myself up and this lady goes back and reports the same issue to my mom? Or this person told me AB. I know there's that level of secrecy that therapists keep. But then, I'm human. I'm going to have that seed of doubt in me.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, what if I say too much and it ends up landing me in trouble back home? So there's that aspect of, I don't want to say so much. Let me just say what makes me look good. And most people don't understand that therapy is about talking about your evil self, the side that you don't want people to see.
Yeah.
I'm going to say things that make me look good. I'm going to say things that make me look like I want to solve my problem.
Yeah.
But deep down,
there are issues. There are real.
There's that devil in me.
Issues.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I want to get that person out, but I can't.
Yeah.
I'm limited because I'm scared of how you look at me. I'm scared of you judging me. I'm scared of so many things. So I'd rather keep that to myself. And that's why most people end up crashing.
Yeah, and as you were saying, like, I think when we build technology in a manner like we're able to have these virtual agents, maybe helping people, helping as many people as possible in terms of maybe when they want to maybe talk to about their real issues, talk about maybe what they are facing, and maybe the AI, because it's full of information, come to assist them in the proper way and in a manner which is maybe it's more effective than maybe an agent. I'm not saying that a virtual agent would be more effective maybe than a real agent, but I'm saying like maybe when we reach to that technological advancement, we're able to have these agents serving people, even people who cannot even afford to go to seek consulting and all that. It can be more effective and something that can, okay, like I wanted us to talk about also maybe the real issue here. Like some people say like maybe relationships are the cause of mental illnesses, but do you think there are also multiple issues that cause, let's say, mental illness or something?
That becomes a very, very tricky question, because again, yes, there's a certain percentage of issues, of mental health related issues that are caused by relationships.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're there. But then it also depends on the kind of partner you have. It's very, very important. The kind of partner you have will determine whether you'll be well mentally, you'll be an okay mentally. And it comes down to the level of honesty, the level of openness, the level of sincerity, the level of genuineness that the both of you share. That is very, very important. You see, sadly, our generation we've built relationships over very, very, I'd call them in quotes, nonsensical things.
Yeah.
Yes, they bring value to relationship, but they're not necessarily what
You need what you want.
or what you want.
Yeah.
You see, before I get into any form of agreement, because before a lady and a man start dating, there has to be an agreement. Yeah, I want you want me,
Shared goals
and everything.
Yeah.
But sadly, most of us run into these things with no shared goals, with nothing, and you realize the time you're crashing down, you have issues, you cannot call your partner.
Or they themselves, they are the issue.
Yeah.
They are the ones causing the real issue.
And even if them equally, it also serves them. If they have an issue, they realize, okay, I can't call this guy. Yeah, because you don't have shared things. You don't have shared goals.
Yeah.
You're there for he's there for your body. You're there for his money.
Yeah.
And you see, there's a very, very big disconnect.
Disparity in
exactly
in terms of what you're supposed to get from a relationship and what you're actually getting right now. So because I think maybe, I don't know if it's okay, I keep mentioning the society. I'm not saying the society is wrong or society is not going in the right direction. I keep saying the society because I know like the society is also the society is also a source of power. Like if the society changes, like we can also change as individuals. So I think maybe the society should redefine how we see relationship, because like people say like love itself is not enough. And that's the truth that most young people don't actually don't want to accept. Like that stage where you are flirting, that stage where you are, let's call it the honeymoon part, that stage usually it's short-lived. And when the real issues start coming up and how you solve them, and that's when you really determine whether the relationship was actually something that you can actually depend on. Because you might find like when the real issues start coming now, you find that you don't have a partner, you cannot even talk to your partner, you cannot air yourself out, you cannot talk to that person becomes a liability more than an investment. So you see, and that's the kind of, sadly, that's the relationship that most people are in right now. And I'm talking about the boy-girl relationship, that people that because you find like most people are being driven by other things, being driven by other motives, and this thing they call relationship becomes now the bomb, the cause of mental issues. And the sad thing is people even kill themselves. People even commit suicide because of it.
And you even murder your partners because of things that could be talked about between the both of you. And the best I'd say the best book to read from when it comes to relationships for those of us who've had the lack of coming from functional family setups. The best book to read from, or the best books rather to read from when it comes to relationships would be our parents. How they manage themselves. And even for those who who have been raised by single parents, because I tend to believe there's a certain way our parents used to manage themselves in a very, very respectful manner. Even when it came, now that we're talking about relationships, there's a way they used to talk to each other. You see, you'd get like a situation whereby you're feeding off. If for example your dad has a problem, the first person to call would be your mom, just for advice, and equally your mom would do the same. But sadly for us, it's quite different. It's a whole lot different thing. People just want the thrill of, again, you mentioned something about the society. The society has sold the wrong narrative when it comes to relationships. What the society is portraying, that how a relationship should look like, is not necessarily how relationships are. That is something we tend to overlook most of the time. Because the society has portrayed a relationship as something that should be blossoming at all times. So I'd give an example. You'd see someone putting up and it catches up with you at some point, because you've already created this scenario in your head that this is how it should look like. I need to have a car, I need to have this and this. But then if it doesn't work out your way, you're like, okay.
But the car, it's let me say, like, the car is another step, but there's a small step, like how people perceive how relationships should be. Like people like see it should be perfect, like there are no issues.
It can never be perfect. It can never be perfect.
Like it's all about happiness, it's all about every day is Christmas and all that.
It can never be perfect. In fact, what builds relationships are the problems that you go through. That is what builds. That is the core of every relationship. The problems that you go through together, and you're able to overcome these problems together, that is what builds the relationship.
And it can either be a place where you find peace when you're facing mental illness issues, or a place where it's the real cause of your
mental state, bad mental state.
And the Killen, I had you had talked about family and how family, we should learn from the family, and how family, looking at our parents, we should be able to identify how they run their things. But there's this special case where we are talking about maybe relationship being the cause of mental illnesses and all that. There's this case where the family now is the cause of.
And that is true. Sadly, it's a thing, a very, very big thing. I used to have, I got the opportunity to serve in the council back in campus. And during my time in office, I interacted with so many students. And the sad part, or the sad bit about it, is that I picked out that most of these problems that these students were facing were actually from home. And parents didn't even notice that the children actually have problems. Because for you, you're paying fees, you're providing food, clothing, shelter, you're probably even providing the transport that is being used. So for you, everything is okay.
Like, what the hell this person,
exactly.
This person is suffering from?
And I'm providing everything.
Everything is provided.
But then, mental health issue, mental health go beyond you providing as a parent. I might have my own issues. I might have, you see, it also comes down to self-esteem. You might be providing all these things, but there are certain things that I face on a daily basis that make me doubt or question myself.
And those are the things that are causing nowadays
the mental stress that most people are undergoing.
And SETI in a plan kuchomea the African parents, or maybe to point a finger on them, but we find like most of the African parents can even go for several months without even contacting their children. Like, so long as they are providing everything and they know you have everything you need, they can even go for months. They don't want to talk to their kids and know what kids they are facing. And like I say, the problem goes beyond providing. Can even go to something like self-esteem and all that. So I think the Kenyan parents sometimes, I'm not saying all of them, some of them do check up, but I find sometimes they go for months without even when the real issue now comes in, is when they're like, hey, you should have said,
you should have spoken earlier. And you know the sad part is that ukiongea mapema, probably you wouldn't even have found a solution.
Would be taken
the way that it deserves. So that I feel like that is just said because of the circumstance at that point. Because you're now down, you're completely out, and that is the best thing to say. Ungesema mapema.
Ungesema mapema.
That makes sense at that point. And you're like, okay, well, my parents would have had me. But in real sense, if you had brought that issue up, wangetupilia mbali waseme wewe tunakupatia kila kitu, what are you lacking? Hey, you need to be in school doing this and this and this and this, bettering yourself, building a future for yourself.
Bettering yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when you talked about the family, and maybe you said learning from the parents and all that, but sometimes find that the parents are the ones that are maybe the big issue. And one thing that we can be able to maybe introspect from that is what the parents says, like the words that they use. Some parents are so abusive maybe with their words, or maybe the words that they use can be the cause of mental issues. Do you think that's the case, Killen?
It's very, very true. Sometimes what you say is what you don't realize that we're a very, very sensitive generation. Very sensitive. Whatever you say is taken with the weight it deserves.
Yeah.
And if you want to know we're a very, very sensitive generation, I'd just take you back to the Gen Z protests. Very, very sensitive. Whatever you say might be the biggest trigger that you've pulled in your life. And that happened. You saw how sensitive of a generation we are when it came to the Gen Z protests, because the president said things that didn't sit well with us.
Yeah.
And the next course of action was going to the street.
Yeah.
And that also applies to the home setup. Very, very sensitive. There are certain words parents use that play a very, very big role in shaping us as we grow. So if you use very, very abusive language, and those things live with people. Today you'll call me a failure, you'll call me stupid, that will live with me. You're my own parent telling me that I'm a failure, I can't do anything great in my life. That will live with me forever. So even when I'm trying to do something, it keeps on playing back in my head. You're a failure. And each time I fail, I become stressed. And that leads to depression, because I'm like, okay, this word was said to me by my own parent.
Or even you doubt, like, because you've been called a failure, you doubt your capabilities, and you're like, I can't achieve anything. Even the simplest of things, maybe draw a circle, you're like, I can never do a perfect
because
circle.
I'm a failure.
Because I'm a failure.
It came from my parent.
And if my parents said so, then I am a failure.
Because they're the ones who brought me here. So
there's that aspect of parents being the cause of mental problems, and I think there should be an awakening. The parents should know, like, each and every word they speak to their kids can even the Bible says, like, words from the tongue can build or destroy. Like, parents should also be keen on how they use their words to their kids, because it can either build them or break them,
completely destroy them. So
Killen, I was according to books that I've read, and according to some few experiences here and there, like, do you think do you think there are certain patterns of behavior like people do portray whenever they are having mental illness issues, or they're facing mental illness? Like, there's a certain code of behavior that changes, or certain things that come that were not associated with that individual. Do you think that the society has put a mechanism in a way we can be able to identify people who are facing mental issues?
That's a very, very good question. So how I want to put it is that there's no mechanism, sadly. There's no mechanism that has been put in place for people to identify mental health issues before they escalate. So there are no mechanisms. But I tend to believe that there are certain signs that as a person you can easily pick, and you can be able to tell if someone is okay, if they're not. Give an example of, if you're friends, right? And in your circle of friends you realize that one of your friends is actually one of your loudest friends is actually silent. Starting to become silent. He starts withdrawing himself from the circle, starts doing things by himself. Then now you can pick out that there's something wrong with this dude. That is evident. That is something you can easily pick out. But there's no mechanism, because behavior from person to person varies. We don't have the same traits. We don't have the same characteristics. So it's very, very hard to detect
someone is facing
challenges unless they open up to you, or you ask them, or you just not notice trends. But if there's a standard, like how do I put it? If there's a standard, if there are standard behaviors of people of early mental health detection, I don't know if I'm making any sense. If there is, then I believe that should be shared. If there are certain signs that someone can pick out, okay, I read about this somewhere. This person is actually showing all these signs.
I was also listening to another conversation, and they were like saying like when these people are people who are facing like mental illness issues, like the behavior changes and it becomes opposite. Like if someone was social, they start withdrawing, and if someone was doing things this way, they start doing things differently, and maybe they pick it out that those are some of the things that we can be able to pick out and identify people who have issues. Because I think like, you know, when you talk about being able to identify when a person is facing mental illness or maybe facing an issue, like I think that should go beyond just being a society, and it should be an individual obligation. And you know, when you say learning human behavior or psychology, people like tend to shy away from that. Like when you say psychology, people see like
it's complex.
It's a big.
It sits out of our reach, out of our world.
Yeah, but let me call it like there's this simple psychology that all of us can learn. When I say we, I mean like we as the boy-girlfriend relationship, we as the family, we as the school, we as the society. Like there's that obligation we should take to be able to identify how people change in behavior, so that we're able to assist them as early as possible. Because like I said, like this thing we calling health or the mental problems like that arise, they actually go in stages. Like when or you're unable to maybe find a way you can be able to solve maybe the first few stages, this thing escalates or maybe becomes something more, something that reaches a stage where you can also commit suicide or to think of other things like killing someone else or something like that. So I think like I said, like we have various issues that cause this one, but when you say when we come to something like depression, it starts with stress. Like you start with stress and then it heads to depression. And stress ain't a bad thing like maybe the people know it. Actually, we all face stress every day, every time we are facing a certain sort of stress. Like from like maybe most people face stress of maybe wanting to build something, to develop, to reach a certain stage. Some people face stress on how they're going to make a few income or maybe increase their income. Some people face stress on how they're going to maybe buy their next something. You see, stress is there every day, but how you deal with it, how you react to it is now the big thing that people should maybe be cautious about. Like how you react to this stress. Like it can be a source of motivation or something that will weigh you down. And sometimes this stress is the cause of mental illness. Like some people don't have a good mechanism of how they deal with stress, and it becomes the source of mental illness. So like Killen, do you think like it's somewhat easy to identify a person who's facing stress and all that?
As I mentioned earlier, behavior varies from person to person. So it's hard. It is hard. But then, as you mentioned, if there's if there's, I'd call it standard signs. It's like I don't know how to put it. I'm looking at it from a perspective of if there are, you see the way we have general signs of malaria. You know, when you have these pains, abdominal pains, headaches, joint aches, that is malaria. So I don't know if mental, exactly.
There are certain signs and symptoms that are attached to maybe stress.
So that you can now start picking it out in its earlier stages. Because for me, that would be very, very difficult, to be sincerely honest. Unless, as I mentioned, someone speaks out and says that I'm going through this and this and this. But I don't think I'd really say that I know of like certain
patterns of behavior
that show that this person is
facing stress. Exactly. And all that.
Sometimes you might, as I mentioned, you might have someone in your circle and you go out for lunch and this person seems withdrawn and you probably tend to feel like it's stress, but probably this person is just tired.
Exactly. Like so it's so difficult.
It's so difficult to tell whether someone is going through something without them telling you that they're actually going through something.
Because like it's difficult to identify when person is facing stress and all that. And sadly, most of us usually notice when it was already escalated to a point where it's depression now. Like someone is now depressed and maybe they are losing weight now. They are unable to sleep. Or maybe they are always late or maybe they seem they whenever they have some activity, they have no motivation, like they have no something that they have nothing that is driving them. So when it reaches that stage, then when they come out to, and at that stage maybe sometimes it's too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
So a person might,
it's a point of no return.
Yeah. Someone might be there with the person is smiling and all that, and suddenly
tomorrow they are no more.
Yeah, and they have left a note like they have been facing.
Yeah, certain challenges.
In
this went unnoticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the sad thing is, okay, I don't. This might be a debate, but sometimes it's the men now that really face the mental illness.
Yeah, I think suicide among men is actually quite high. Go back to a story of that student who hanged himself in, I don't know if it's in Ruiru, because of exams, because the lecturer was giving him trouble. This guy just decided, enough is enough. I've had enough of this.
Was it Waitadie or?
Waitadie. I was trying to remember the place. It's Waitadie. This person just decided, okay, I've had enough of this. Hanged himself. And that takes me back to a reel I'd watched some time back. And this reel was actually quite interesting because it showed different men from different backgrounds being very happy with their kids, with their wives, with their friends, with their family. And later on that night, or a few days later, each one of them ended up committing suicide. They're from different families. They're not people who knew each other, just stories from different people. And they recorded the last moments with their loved ones unknowingly, because these guys were happy, these guys were smiling, these guys were playing around. And then you wake up in the morning, you find this person has left a note. This and this has been happening, me, I'm tired, goodbye. So it's very, very hard to pick. As you mentioned, for men, it's very, very hard. And I also want to point out that as men, we're very, very deceitful when it comes to our emotions, right? We like lying to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because you know you're going through something, you don't want to say what you're going through. I'd rather laugh with you, but let that thing kill me inside. I'd rather just smile with you. Probably, if I have a problem now, I'd have already made up my mind that I'm going to kill myself at 9 p.m. tonight. Yeah, and you don't know about it, and you're having this conversation here, and you're like, okay, but we talked with him, he was okay.
He was okay. We even talked about mental.
And we were talking about mental illness, but this guy's already gone.
The men now.
Yeah, because
the society has brought us in a manner like we
should not
for
talk
a man to speak out that is weakness
problem.
Or something.
And it's very, very sad.
Yeah.
Tunika tumeko mali, where it's so wrong for us to speak about the things we're going through.
Personal issues and all that.
Yes, and again, it's very, very hard for men. I know it's hard for women. Can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
But it's very, very hard for men out here. Very hard.
I will not speak for women, but I think sometimes women are more open maybe to each other and open to maybe the men to other maybe men in their relationship. I think women speak out more compared to men. Men sometimes tend to. I'm speaking from the pocket because I'm a man. I know how it feels to be a man. Like it's so difficult, like to face when you're facing issues and you like it's sometimes you see it easier to keep it to yourself than to speak to someone else, because like, and it's not a problem to handle problems on your own, but sometimes for some people, if you don't have the proper way to which you can be able to control the issues, if they are uncontrollable, then it's, I think I would advise people to like speak out to someone who's close to you, speak out to someone maybe who's dear to you, speak out to someone maybe. Or sometimes, I don't know, if there's an opportunity, maybe you dial a number that is unknown, and but speak out. Yeah,
but then I believe like everyone has a friend or two that you're very, very close to, and you can easily speak to them. And for me, luckily enough, for me, I have people that can always call when I feel I'm very, very drained. And yeah, most of the times they may not have solutions to my problems, but whatever comes out of their mouth is what makes me hang on. Yeah, because you see, there's that level of motivation that someone can give to you, and that will make you go through things that you never thought you'd go through. And I'll give you an example of my personal relationship with my girlfriend. And it is an open. When I have a problem, and most of the times, sadly for us men, we usually land ourselves in trouble most of the time,
Yeah.
unknowingly or knowingly, because again there's that other aspect of risk taking, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you end up getting stressed. I'll give you an example. I lost a good amount of money last week through some very, very, I wouldn't want to call it shady business. It was legit, but I ended up losing money.
You ended up losing money.
I ended up losing like
Yeah.
a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And I was really stressed.
Yeah.
Very stressed. And I remember that evening I called her and I was like, okay, ABCD has happened, and I ended up losing X amount of money. Obviously there's that dress that I'm going to get. You know, I warned you about doing this and this and this and this and this. You keep on doing this. I even told you a story about my friend who lost money the same way. You're not in the same position, and you're like, okay,
I wish I would
I wish I'd listened to her initially. But again, after all that scolding, after all that dress down, there's that aspect of understanding. Yeah, you know what?
It's okay.
It happens. It's life. Sorry. How we're going to find a way of sorting it out. And that is what builds you as a man. Yeah, if you find someone who's supportive, a supportive friend, equally called a friend of mine also, because again, I'm that person who likes talking when I have things that are eating me down. So and then there's also a friend of mine that I talk to. So I shared that with at least 3 people.
Yeah.
And each one of them had something to say. But then at the end of the day, it was like, okay, you've gone through this. It's happened. Now let's focus
on the next.
Yeah. Let's now move on from this. And I feel like that's very important, because for me, that helped me forget about the loss that I'd gone through. Yeah. It's money that I lost. So I'm like, okay, imeshaenda. What can I do? Now let me focus on something else.
Yeah.
Because that is gone. Imagine if I hadn't talked to those people, I'd probably still be cursing myself.
Yeah.
Like, okay, nimefanya nini. And now you want to go and find somewhere, but either way, just find someone people who understand you, people who you can talk to.
People who you can talk to and all that. Yeah, sometimes airing yourself out can really help you people to, before it escalates and it becomes a mentor, because I'm sure like another cause of mental illness, sometimes it's finances or the money aspect. Like not especially in this society that we're living in, where everyone on social media is showing off.
Everyone is flaunting cash,
their new car, how they have already made it, maybe and it becomes maybe the cause of maybe the mental problems for most of the young people, because they're like, I need to get there and I need to get there fast. And you see, money also becomes the biggest cause of mental illness issues. Stress. Yeah.
And just to add on to what you've said, I remember a time, and for me that's why I actually love working a lot, because I know nothing comes easy. And if you see, there's a musician there's a line a musician he mentions that when you're getting fast money, slow down so that you don't crash. And that is the sad reality of people in our generation. People get money in ways they know, and it's actually fast money, and then they end up crashing and their lives are taken away. So when it comes to social media is actually one of the biggest causes of mental issues. Because tonight you're going to log in into your Instagram, into your Facebook, into your TikTok. You're going to meet a 21-year-old flaunting cash, throwing money all over the place.
Already a CEO.
Buying vehicles. But you have to understand something. There's the process to getting to where you want to get to in life. You just can't wake up one day and you're a millionaire, unless you're a thief or a ritualist. Again, and even politicians. So unless you're a politician also.
And also maybe inheritance. Some people get from
inheritance. From inheritance.
It's very hard for you to judge and say this person has already made it in life. We don't know. So maybe they have already, someone worked for it, maybe they are, or maybe and even sometimes it goes to an extent where it is not even theirs. They just had an opportunity
to touch something.
They decided to make a vlog about it.
And there's something, just to cut you short, there's something a very, very good YouTuber mentioned. He's called Obina. I'm going to call him out. Obina mentioned that the moment you realize you're not where you want to be in life, the most important thing is to first appreciate where you are currently. So if you just appreciate who you are. Okay, this is me now. I want to have this and this and this by this and this time. What's the plan of getting there? How do I want to get there? Do I have a solid plan? if there's a solid plan, how am I going to implement that plan? Do I need any form of finance? Do I need any form of help? Do I need any form of advice?
Yeah.
And he mentioned the fact the moment you appreciate where you are in life,
Yes.
and you start working towards where you want to
be.
go, exactly,
Yeah.
and that's when you start progressing in life.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy. And they'll tell you, I don't know, for me, that is one of my biggest, like, I love
drive.
yeah, exactly. I love Obina so much because he says the truth of how things are. He doesn't sugarcoat things for you to love his life. Before he got to where he is, there's a story behind what we are seeing currently. And sadly, most of us don't appreciate the fact that there's a story behind
Every successful man.
Maybe unaona tu mtu akona gari hapa ndio like mimi nataka gari. And you don't realize there's hard work.
Do anything.
Exactly, there's sweat.
Steal, kill.
Exactly, there's tears, there's pain involved in this. These things aren't gotten easy. They're not. And the moment you appreciate the fact that you have to work for the things you want in life, then that's when you start progressing.
Yeah, but I also think that is also one of the biggest cause of mental illness, where people don't know. Most of people sometimes don't know how they will move from where they are. They don't have a plan. As in, people don't have a plan. See, for most people, maybe are living in the moment. They don't know, the fear of not knowing what will be and how they want to get there. Sometimes that's also a cause of mental illness.
But I believe like that the fear should be your biggest drive.
Yeah.
The fear for not knowing how tomorrow will look like.
Yeah, it
should be your biggest motive. For me, that is my biggest actually. So I'm glad you mentioned it. That is my biggest drive, the fear of not knowing tomorrow. So if I do not know how tomorrow would be, I'd rather work for it today.
Yeah.
And ensure that when tomorrow comes,
I'll be
where exactly. Now I'll worry about the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that is something we have to first look at. Usiingie to social media, you're going to stress yourself out very, very menially, small things that you can completely avoid. Just learn how to work smart. If you want to make money at a young age, work smart. Just be wise. Know where to invest. Know where to put your time. Know the global trends. You ride on a wave before it crashes on the shore.
Yeah. Or maybe equip yourself with
skills,
knowledge.
Exactly.
As you prepare to move to the next step, or maybe now having something where you can reach that stage where you can also show for what you have achieved, like other people are doing. So like we have seen like there are some causes of mental illness. We have seen like relationship. We have talked about relationship from boy girl and boy. We talked about relationship concerning the parents. They have talked about even money, finances. We've talked about even the social media being the source of mental issues. And I think by now, like we have really talked about mental. It's a broad topic. I'm not sure we have even talked about everything.
We haven't even touched. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
We are talking, we can be able to understand what an individual is who will be listening to this, who's listening to this is facing. Because like we had said in the beginning, like we are all different. People face different kind of issues. We might not even understand even a scope of what you're facing as an but at least we have outlined some few issues here, some few manners or some few let me say steps which someone can use so that we're able to maybe move from where they are, maybe whenever if they are facing this kind of issues, where maybe we have said let's talk to people. Let's talk to people, like
exactly. Just before you go, learn to ask your friends if they are okay. Learn to ask your loved ones if they are okay. Just shoot a text, ring them. Are you okay? Are you okay? Ask it from a point of genuineness, from a point of love, from a point of care. Exactly. Just ask them, are you okay? That might actually save someone. You might save someone's life without you knowing that you're actually saving their life. Just learn to ask people if they're okay. When you're buying your smoky along the road, these guys who make smokies, smochas, those guys who make mahindi choma, the touts in the matatus, if you're seated at the front with the driver, a day-to-day basis, just talk to them. Ask, hey bro, local fiti, sis, local fiti. Just ask. And probably you'd have someone just to tell, hey man, today I've had a difficult day. Today I've had I have a driver, not my personal driver, a matatu driver that drives me home on
So on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy has this tendency of asking me if I'm okay, because we've formed that friendship. Yeah, he's like, ah bro, leo umekuwa na siku fiti, job imekuwaje? I'm like, ah, imekuwa easy, ABCD has happened. The time I'm alighting the mat, I'm like, okay, I feel like I've left some load inside there. Now I can just go shower, eat, and rest. And I equally ask him how his day has been. He's probably told me cops have been on his neck, kanjos, you know, the daily shenanigans of the road. And yeah, you laugh about problems and you find solutions to problems. So yeah, just love to ask people if they're okay, and that is how we can progress and help each other when it comes to mental health
issues. Yeah, we have had a very good conversation with Killian here, and I hope that you have learned some things or two about mental illness, and also have learned on things that are causing mental illness and how some few scopes which you can use. And also glad because Killian is from a software development company, and you've also learned that they have also artificial intelligence advancements that are helping people cope with mental illness issues. So Killian, I would give you an opportunity to talk about maybe the company you work for and maybe where we can be able to find you, and maybe some closing remarks.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to now market my company, or our company rather.
Yeah.
I work for a company called Proxima AI. Proxima is a forward-thinking company that aims to build the gap in communication between businesses and their clients using artificial intelligence driven tools. We have things such as the virtual assistant that help cut response time. We have data analytics, both predictive and descriptive. We have a community platform where your customers can interact with each other. And yeah, just to mention but a few, we're equally developing a call assistant. So we'd have a situation whereby when your clients call for inquiries, instead of them talking to human agents, they talk to virtual assistants. And the beauty about this is that they operate 24/7 without any failure, right? So for you to find out more about what we do, I'd welcome you to visit our website at www.proximaai.co. There you can get to learn about what we do, and at least know how we work and how our operations, or how our systems are there to solve the operational challenges as a business or as a company. You can equally follow us on our social media pages. That is on Instagram at ProximaAI_KE, on Facebook at ProximaAI_KE, on LinkedIn at ProximaAI_KE, on X at ProximaAI_KE, and equally subscribe to our YouTube page at Proxima AI.
Yeah, thank you, Kellen. You have not mentioned where you can find you specifically on social media.
My personal handle.
Yes.
My personal handle is on private. I'm usually very, very active on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm a real person, so probably I'll be watching reels even if you DM me.
Yeah.
But you can follow me at Killen Kevin. That is KYLEN Kevin, KEVIN. On Facebook at Killen Kevin Dagwa, although I'm not active on Facebook, but that's a page that you can follow me through. Equally on LinkedIn as Africa Rising, and on TikTok I am the Kenyan Avgeek. By the way, apart from loving AI, I also love aviation, so yeah, anything to do with planes, that's a conversation we can have.
Yeah,
that's a conversation
I think that one can have another
yeah, that's I love
talk about aviation in the face of aviation in Kenya and all that, because I think now that maybe we had put Adani aside, I think that's something we can actually touch. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that conversation, because where it comes to aviation, that's my love.
Yeah.
That's my second love. Yeah.
So again, thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you comment, make sure that you even share with your friends and family, so that you can be able to learn more about mental illness and all that, and being mentally health. Having a mentally health society is having a mentally health nation, and having a mentally health nation, it's actually a first step towards achieving development and all that. So thank you for again watching. My name is Patrick Mushiro Njoroge, for those who are catching us right now, and thank you. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.